straight into it. Intervals introduction. Okay. And excuse me, an interval is the distance between two notes, a bass note and a high note. Okay? So here's just a few examples as you can see on the screen. Now, any note, any of the 12 notes, from lesson 1, you know how to visualize all your notes now. Yeah, he agrees. So, for an interval we need two notes, a bass note and a high note. So it can be any note we can start with. But from this example here, let's start on the note C. Okay? So these are examples of intervals. Right? And they all have a particular sound. Now, there's only 12 intervals in Western music, so there's only 12 intervals for the ear to recognise. And by the way, this presentation is a PowerPoint presentation, and it's available as a PDF document in the description below. So if you don't want all my chatter and just want to get straight to the document, you can just download that, and that's fine. Okay, so these are all the 12 intervals. We have them written here. Now, we're starting on the note C, but we can start on any of the notes. And they all have names, but have a listen to them. What we're trying to do, we want to go slowly so our ear can hear them, right? Now, the number 1 is not an interval. It's just a root note or bass note, okay? So, the 1 is our bass note, and we have a -2. Have a listen. Now, you can do this as well. Put your hands on the keyboard as shown, okay? And just thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index. Have a listen. That's a -2. Play them together. Very harsh, right? But if you play them up here, if you do the -2 up here, it's less harsh, right? And you can hear that interval as you go up. This is a second. So this is also called a semitone, and this is also called a tone, okay? -3, 3, 4, -5, 5, +5, 6, -7, 7, and 1. Now, we're going to learn all these intervals, and you're going to, off by heart, you're going to know how to find these very quickly and instantly on the piano. So don't stress too much. This gets a little in depth, right? I advise you to download the PDF and just go over this material until you get it in your head, right? So once it all makes sense, it'll become clear. All right, okay, shut up. All right. This is a 5th interval starting on the note C, okay? So it's just an example. Now we're going to learn how to find all our 5ths very quickly. Right? All our 5ths, we're going to learn how to find them instantly. In the next lesson, in another lesson. Okay, so here's an example of a minor third. The bass note is E. That's a minor third. The bass note is 1, it's not an interval unless it's a high octave. So if we have the bass note here as E, and we go E up the high, that's an octave. It's still a 1, right? We call it the high 1 or 8, you can call it 8. So that's called an octave interval. That's 2 octaves, but to the ear, it's the same note, right? It's the same note we're hearing. Three important intervals to know. Okay, now this is very important. So this is where we start. Tones and semitones and the octave, they are by far the most important intervals, okay? Because we use them all the time in our real-time playing. So a semitone is just, if you pick one note, any note, right? And we're just showing a few up here. So if we pick C, a semitone up is just the next note up. What do you have to say about it? Yeah, he agrees. All right, quiet. I'm trying to do a video here. No, quiet. Semitone up is just the next note up, okay? So there we have a semitone up. If you're on the black note, you're on C sharp, a semitone up is the note D, right? Okay. A semitone down, if we're on the note C sharp, a semitone down is back to C. Semitone down again would be B, okay? A tone always has a note in between. So we can visualise, look at this. So say between C and D we have a tone, C, C, D, because there's a note in the middle, right? between C sharp and D sharp is a tone because there's a note in the middle, right? Between D sharp and F, that's a tone because there's a note in the middle. No, that's a tone and that's a tone. So we're just sliding up, sliding back down. If that's a tone, that's a tone. So very quickly you'll see that that's a tone, that's a tone, that's a tone, and then these are tones. So there's a quick way to find your tones. And the same goes here. That's a tone, and again we're here. So the rule here to find the tones, if you're on a white note, it's going to be another white note until we get to this gap. And this gap just does this, okay? Has to do that because that's a semitone, right? Same up here. A tone, if you're starting on a black note, the tone is going to be the next black note up, right? Unless we come to this gap, then it's just this, right? Same up here. F sharp, that's a tone and that's a tone. And then here is just that, right? It's the same as this pattern here. Okay, so there are our tones and semitones, very important to know. Let's move on. There are 12 octaves in Western music. So from C to C is an octave, C sharp to C sharp is an octave, D to D is an octave. Okay, now if we go up here, we still call that an octave. It happens to be 2 octaves, but it's still the same note, right? It's just a pitch higher. Same when we come down, that's still the same note. It's just a pitch lower. Oop, that wasn't the same note. That's the same note. That's a second. See the harshness? Okay, moving on. An interval may cross an octave, but it's still the same interval to our ear. It's still the same interval to our ear. So for instance, C and D, so that's a second. That's also a second, right? Now when we're talking about chords, we call this a ninth, but we're going to talk about that later on. Naming all the intervals starting on the note C. Okay, they all have names. Now, you'll notice, right, we'll go back. All right, so you'll notice all the white notes are named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1. And the black notes, right, are named from the white notes, but only in the key of C. Right? You'll see what I mean as we go along. All this stuff will make more sense the more you see it, the more you practice. Now, intervals is the foundation, and we'll be using intervals all the time in the Akousunesis method, right? So they'll become second nature, and you'll be able to read them, and you'll know all your intervals on all the chords as time goes on, so you can play your dream song. Okay. Excuse me. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Now notice here, we call this a scale, the Western major scale. We're probably all familiar with this by now. And you're listening, you can hear it, right? So a 2, in our method, these numbers here is how we're going to represent melodies. And there's a reason we use -5 and +5, and we don't use, say, +4. Now, we've got 4, +4 happens to be -5, okay? But we won't ever say +4 in this system, right? And there's a reason for that too. And as I'll let you know as we go on. And it's basically how we use a fifth as a reference to work out all the intervals on all your chords. We'll get to that down the track. A lot of good things are coming. Okay, so second minus second, third minus third. So we can see we've just dropped the second. So -2, 2, 3 -2. We're just going back a semitone. 4, 3 and 4 is a semitone. 5, -5, and +5, -5 and +5. Okay? We also call that a diminished and augmented fifth, right? But when we're describing melodies in our system, we'll be using these interval numbers. When we're talking about chords, we'll know what a diminished is and an augmented, and they will be just the way they are described normally. Then we have a 6, -7, 7 and 1. Let's move on. The bass note may start on any note. Okay, so as we said before, the bass note can be any note. So in this example, okay, we're starting on F, right? And then we will notice here, we've got F. We've got 1, 2, 3. Notice 4 now is the black note up here, and 5 is minus 5. And that's because of we haven't got to that yet, so we'll get to that, okay? We'll get to that. It's in this presentation. We're getting there. We don't want to rush ahead, okay? Here the bass note starts on F. Numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are in the key of F, okay? They're in the key of F, having root note 1, okay? The root note is 1, which is also the bass note for all these intervals, okay? But it's also the root note of the key of F. We'll keep it going. The number 1 is not an interval, it's called the bass note, okay? You need 2 notes for an interval. When referring to a key or chord, the root note is 1, okay? So in the key of C, C is the root note. If we're in a mode, we're going to get into modes. Okay? So F in this case is the root note of that mode, okay? Which is the Lydian. Now we're going to get into modes way down the track. Good things coming. Okay, observe how all the white notes are labelled in the key of C. Are you following this fella? I think he is. He looks a little bewildered, but and if you're still here and you are a little bit bewildered, don't forget you can download this presentation and you can go over it and over it. It will make more sense as you revisit this information. So observe how all the white notes are labelled in the key of C, okay? And the black notes are out of key. In key, if I play, it's a different scale now. All right, so in all other 12 keys, the numbers start at the root of the key. This is a key of G. All right, so the key of G, you can see that we have the 7 now is on F sharp, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the minus 2, minus 3, 4, minus 5 plus 5, 6, minus 7, 7 and 1. High 1. Okay, the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 in the Western major scale is called a harmonic interval series. It's harmonic because we're talking about intervals in reference to a bass note. So that's a second, that's a third, that's a fourth, that's a fifth, sixth, seventh, 1. A melodic interval series is the intervals calculated from previous notes. So tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, right, is the Western major scale, and it's a melodic interval series. Because from one note, we start on the root note. We call that root note. The first tone is D, from C to D, right? It's the first tone. Second tone's from D to E. The semitone's from E to F, right? And then F to G, we have another tone, semitone, and tone, okay? And when we play we're going to learn scales in the next lesson and how to play them. We want to go slowly just to listen. What we're listening for is the tonality of the C major Western scale, right? And the tonality of it becomes our reference in our head. A singer will sing in a particular key, and they'll be able to hear if the song comes out of key, which many songs come out of key at certain places, and they'll be able to hear that because they have that tonality reference point, right? So intervals work with tonality. I mean, the Western major scale is just a group of intervals. That's all it is. So a song melody is a melodic interval series, okay, moving from note to note. So when you're playing a melody, you're going up, you're going down, you're staying the same spot, right? And it has rhythm, melodic rhythm. This is why we recognise songs instantly. We're very good at recognising songs. Like you might hear a song you haven't heard for a long time and know what it is, you know, because this is so natural. We wouldn't be able to communicate if we couldn't recognize melodic interval series. To train our ear to hear melodies, right, and play them, right, we hear them very, we recognize them, but we want our hands to magically find the keys, right? So in order to do that, right, we need to train our ear to hear, we'll concentrate on harmonic interval series representations. So as we learn a song, we're going to learn chords, and the numbers under here represent the actual melody. Right? You're going to learn how to find the intervals in real time in reference to the chord. So all these numbers are in reference to that particular chord. Right? And they all get reset, the numbers over each chord. So if I go, that's a third on C, right? That's a fifth. That's a 1. That's a minor third on E minor. That's a 1, right? And then we have D minor, right? And that's the minor 7th up here, okay? And there's the 5th, right? Minor third, right? And there's the 1. So now when you learn a song, you're going to remove visual crutches. The chords and the intervals below represent a melody. Now, at the end of this video, we're going to do some exercises too. So, and we've got some questions and answers. Right? Okay. Now, you'll notice in the Akousunesis method, we don't show any timing information because we don't want to concentrate on timing, trying to get timing right. A lot of students and teachers will always try to get that beat going and concentrate on timing. We don't do that in this method because the timing, the clock is in your head and it will come naturally. Right? We're going to concentrate on listening for the melody. When you listen to another melody, the timing information is there. Right? So our ear is going to pick that up. And it will come out. So once we get more proficient with knowing all our chords and finding the intervals, we're going to play in time just naturally. So there's really no need to put any effort in it. And you also notice that the numbers represent the melody, right? But they don't tell you where to go up or down. Like that C, could be C up here, could be C down, the C scale, right? The third is the E note. The E could be down here. Right? E could be here, E could be up there. But when you're playing a melody, you know the melody in your head once you hear it, and it goes in your memory, and you'll know automatically which way to go down. You won't even think about this. Right? This will become so natural, and this will happen quickly. You'll know that. So you don't need to know that the note's up there. All you need to know is the chord. So the idea is to have minimal information. We're trying to reduce crutches here. And let the ear, see, he agrees, don't you? He definitely agrees. Now shut up so I can continue this lesson. So we're going to have, we're trying to reduce the crutches, okay, and let the ear take over without this method. Okay, the melodic interval series of any melody will become so natural to hear, you'll no longer need to place any effort in trying to remember the melodies. Your fingers will find the notes. You no longer depend on notation, okay? The Western major scale has a melodic interval series. Oh, okay, so this is a quick look at the Western major scale. So this is something you're going to have to get in your brain and remember. And it's the only melodic interval series that you ever have to remember. And it's going to be, we start on a root note, and it's tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Get that in your memory. 2 tones, a semitone, 3 tones, and a semitone, okay? Root note. And you, in the key of C, if we start on C, try this. Put your hands down here. You can see from C to D there's a tone because there's a note between. Tone, tone, bring your thumb under, semitone from E to F, tone, 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 semitone, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, okay? We're going to be practicing the numbers, right, and saying the numbers. We're going to, in the next lessons coming up. This is only an introduction to intervals, okay? You're going to have to revisit this information. Maybe if you don't want to rewatch this video because you don't want to hear me going on, you can just get the PDF, okay? Just get the PDF and have that information. Alternatively, just buy part A of my book, okay? And I have all these lessons are taken from part A of my book, and then we're going to get to the fun stuff, right, which is part B. That's when you're going to really start to learn songs. But you've got to do this work, right, this initial work. Right? If you want to find your dream girl, it's just not going to happen overnight. You have to learn your intervals. You have to learn a bit of theory. But I'm going to try to make it as fun as I can, because at the end of the day, it's not... All right. It's not that fun. He's telling me to keep going. The Western major scale is the most important scale in Western music because all other scales can be described as alterations to modes of this scale. Now, I'll explain that in a future lesson, what that actually means. But I'm not going to tell you now. Something to look forward to. All right, interval distances also may be measured, right, in tones. So you can see as we rise, have a look at C, thumbs on C. So between C and C sharp, we have a semitone. Between C and D, we have a tone. Between C and E flat, D sharp, we have a tone and a half. 2 tones, 2.5 tones. So as we go up, we gain a semitone. And the octave has 6 tones, right? Halfway point is your diminished fifth, right? Excuse me, which is 3 tones, right? Half of 6 is 3, right? Now, the good news is you don't have to remember any of these interval distances, okay? You don't have to remember them. You're going to be able to find every single one of these intervals pretty much instantly on the piano. And in video, I believe it's going to be video lesson number 5. It's going to blow you away how quickly you'll be able to find all this. But you need to go lesson 1, learn your notes, then lesson 2, understand these intervals. When we get to, I believe it's going to be lesson 5, I'm going to show you how to make any chord quickly and instantly, right? In real time. Examine interval distances on the piano. Play the C major scale, naming all the intervals. Okay, we've come to some exercises now. We've got to do some exercises. Every Western major scale has the interval series 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? The harmonic interval series. So start on C. Right? Now, we're going to have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. All the other ones, if I'm on D, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. You can hear it's the actual same scale. Right? I'm going to show you using the melodic interval series how to find this. But if you've got E, it's a root note. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. The next lesson, we're going to go through all the scales, okay, and work them out. So if I'm in the key of C, it just happens that there's no black notes in the key of C, so all the black notes are going to be out of key. And they're all going to be named from the white notes, -2, -3, -5, +5, and -7. Right? If we're in the key of D, let's actually look at the next key. Once you're comfortable with the intervals 1, 2, 3 in the key of C, all right, we're going to practice now. Put your hand, right? Put your hand on C, the way I've got it shown here, your thumb on C, your pinky on G. Now we're going to practice the interval -5 and 5, okay? You're going to move your pinky down to the -5, right? -5. You're going to move it up to the +5 and back to the 5. Now go slower. Now what we're actually doing here is we're just listening. We're just listening for that sound. And that's the smoothest sound, isn't it? It sounds very nice. That's a bit more dissonant, that sound, right? A bit harsher. Right? And that's harsher too, but from that nice sound, see how it goes a pitch higher and then pitch lower. And there's a nice sound. So that's the dissonant. Pitch higher, pitch lower, pitch higher. And there we're back to the 5. Okay, -5. So I want you to practice that. Go slow. 5 -5, 5, and say it too out loud. All right? You'll make mistakes sometimes when you're saying things, and that's pretty natural. But your fingers, so what you're hearing will go from your brain to your hand. Your mouth can make mistakes. It will make mistakes. I mean, I do it all the time. Say the wrong note. But I know what I'm doing because it goes straight from the brain to the hand. Right? So we're going to practice -5 and 5. When we're comfortable with that, we're going to move on. We're going to practice the thirds. Right? So we've got 1, 2, 3, -3 and 3. So we call that that there is a major chord. We're gonna do chords in lesson 4, I believe. So we've got 3, -3. All we're doing is we flatten the third to get to -3. Right? So to get from a major chord to a minor chord, you just flatten the third. It's knowing how to get from one chord to the other. We're going to learn all about chords in coming lessons, but we have to understand intervals. So the purpose of this video is for you to understand intervals, okay? Again, you can download the PDF, right? Or you can purchase my book for 25 Australian dollars. The PDF is $5, right? So it's cheap as chips. You're going to support this channel, and I'm going to be with you all the way and get you singing and playing, and hopefully singing and playing music. What do you think of that? Do you think that's a good idea? And you won't attract this. That's what you don't want to attract. You want to attract your dream girl. Now, I know mainly guys watch these videos because they want to learn. There's not many girls that want to learn piano, although there's been some brilliant women piano players. Right? Fantastic. But it's a lot of hard work. All right, shut up. All right, that's enough. Blah, blah, blah. Let's keep it going. Practice intervals -7 and 7. All right, so we've got, there's our 7th. Now, you've got to stretch our fingers there for the 7th. There's your -7. Again, hear the sound. And there's the octave. See the octave's nice and smooth? That's a major 7th. That's a minor 7th. All right? Just come a tone down, we've got the major 7th. Sorry, semitone down, we've got the major 7th. Come a tone down, we've got the minor 7th. All right. The 2 now, I'm going to listen for the 2. So you're going to hear them together, hear them separately, up and down. -2. And the 2. Now, we're also going to practice the 4th and the 5th, but this time we're going to keep 5 as your reference. So a 5 is just, you got 5 fingers, right? If you place them on every key here, C, D, E, F, G, right? This happens to be 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The interval 5, okay? Now, we're not referring to finger numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't do that in this system. That's a pinky. The pinky's on the 5, right? P5. Right? Now, a 4 is just a tone down from the 5th, right? And a 6 is a tone up. So I want you to hear that and hear the 4ths. In a lot of pop songs, 4ths and 6 are used all the time. They're so beautiful. And 6/5, because it's a little bit dissonant and it needs to be resolved, and it comes down to be resolved to the 5th. And that's rising. The melody wants to go somewhere. All right, questions and answers. Finally, we're at questions and answers. All right. What do you think? How have I gone so far? Yeah, he's saying that I freaking talk too much. I'm trying to get these videos a bit shorter and a bit more precise. Shut up. A bit more precise. Has to say something. Okay. How does learning intervals help us in the real time? Thanks, Pete. Thank you very much for the purchasing part A of my book. I really appreciate it. And I am here for you to help you on your journey. Just because you've purchased Part A, you can just email me, okay? Email me, or you can put anything in the description. And if you're emailing me, I'll write videos for the answers of this. So some of these guys were my past students, and they've sort of come on, give me a support here. Intervals will become our foundation. Okay, right. So this is intervals. I can't even describe how important these are, right, for our ears development. Okay, they'll be our foundation. Intervals will give you a solid understanding of music theory, which will aid in your improvisation and composition. So it's not only just about hearing music, right? You also want to be able to hear it and create things and compose. And you need a good understanding of music theory. And intervals is going to give you that understanding of theory and matching what you hear with the theory. And it's like a marriage, right? Theory, you don't want to keep it on one side. The theory you learn in the Akousunesis Method is just the theory to get you playing piano and nothing more. You know, you don't need to know when Mozart had his last meal or, any of that. If you want to find all that, fine, go look for it. But we just want to get you playing, okay? That's what the theory is going to do for you here. So intervals is also a memory association, a way we can remember the songs, right? And we might not be concentrating on intervals all the time because we've got a whole lot of memory associations we're going to bring together, and a lot of these become backups, right? You just don't want to totally rely on muscle memory, right? That is the last association that you want because it's unreliable. Muscle memory is unreliable, and you're going to progress slowly by having a good understanding of what you're playing first, and then the muscle memory can kick in after. It's great for left-hand rhythms. It's great for just remembering a song if you're going to play it outright. But you can play the song outright, but because you have that interval knowledge and the knowledge of the chords, you'll be able to easily improvise over existing melodies very easily. Interval representation of melodies are the key, meaning once you learn a melody in one key, meaning once you learn a melody in one key, you can easily transpose it to another key. The numbers don't change. Once you learn a melody and you represent it in intervals, you can change key. The chords will change to the new key, but the intervals will stay the same. Right? And you can even describe chords, not with intervals, with chord numbers, Roman numerals. We'll get into all that in the future lessons. Sam, thank you, Sam. This is a new guy I haven't met in person. Sam, how do I learn all intervals in all key signatures? Well, that's a good question. But thanks, Sam, for the purchase of the book. I really appreciate that. That's going to help me along the way, okay, to create better videos and not yap on too much. And this guy's going to really help me too. All right. All you really need to remember is if you can count to 7, right? That's all you really got to remember. Every key you learn, and we're going to learn all the scales, right? Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I'm in A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Right? 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. But when we're going to learn, we are going to go slower when we learn. Remember, we want to get that ear listening. You can also, another way to do it is so what we're doing here, we're listening to the interval in reference to the root note. So it's the tonality we're listening for. You can also do this. I'm gonna when we come to learning our scales, I'm gonna show you how to learn scales in a more interesting way, and because scales can be very boring just to play the scales outright. So you're gonna learn it in a more interesting way. You're gonna have a bit more fun with your scales rather than just playing them straight. I'm gonna give you some constraints on how you play them, right? And you're gonna learn. It'll be more enjoyable, basically. Okay. What's the 9th, 11th and 13th, Harry? Thanks, Harry, an old student. Well, let's go on. A ninth is just a second, right? That's all it is. To our ear, right, if we're playing a second down here, see how it's a bit harsh, the second here? Up here, it's still a second, right? We use the ninths and 11th and 13th is when we're describing chords, and we're going to get into all that in the future, right? When we do chord constructions. But in the Akousunesis method, we want to simplify things as much as possible. So when you see like complicated chords, you know, we're going to break this up into a simple chord and a melody in terms of intervals. So you might have the chord C, but the melody might hit the second, right? You might have a seventh in there, so it might be a ninth chord, you know. But there's really if your ear hears that it's a ninth, you don't really make your chords more complex than they have to be, right? I know a lot of people a lot of jazz musicians love having all those complex chords, right? And it makes them, it's impressive. But your ear can take a lot of those intervals, right? And you don't even have to show them to your ear. Just show them to your eyes, right? We want to reduce the crutches, right? The reason we have ninths, 11ths is used in chord constructions in which you'll learn in future lessons. Okay. Why are semitones and tones so important? Thank you, Tom. Another student. That's a good question. I'll tell you, mate. The reason is tones and semitones, right? We use them all the time in our real-time playing. To find an interval out of key, you only need to travel a tone or a semitone to find them, right? You will only ever move tones or semitones to alter chords. You need to find these distances instantly. For example, a sixth, as we were doing before, a sixth is just a tone up. 4 is just a tone down from the fifth. Fifth will become your reference point, right? To find all, and I'm going to show you how to find these fifths very easily. Okay, and the fifth will be your reference point. But if I'm playing a fifth here, there's my sixth, there's my fourth. It's so easy, it's just a tone up, right? And you don't have to look because your fingers know how far to go, right? That's a use of muscle memory, a good use of muscle memory, knowing how far to go up or down, right? In the Akousunesis method, another very important interval is the fifth, as I've just shown you. You're going to find fifth intervals will be the secret for constructing your chords. So the fifth and the octave is extremely easy to find. It's the same note, right? Anywhere, right? So if it's E, it's going to be E up here. D, it's going to be D up here, right? It's the same note, right? So the fifth is going to be your key. And when we get to that lesson, I'm going to show you how to find and construct any chord in real time very quickly. And there's some good online tools you can use to play along with songs, good websites. The fifth octave is going to be your reference interval to construct any chord. I'll make a video on how to do this. Oh, I've got it as a lesson 6 here. We'll see. I think it's lesson 6. What is the difference between a bass note and a root note? That's a very good question. Okay, Harry? Well, the root note refers to the first note in which a chord or scale is based, so, okay, and is the number 1, right? A bass note may be any interval. However, in most cases, a bass note and the root note's the same, so I'll explain that a bit further here. Right, for example, C, right? We have the chord C. 1 happens to be C, is not only the bass note for all these intervals, right? It's also the root note of the scale. Right? It's the root note of that scale. And more importantly, it's the root note of the Ionian mode of that scale. Right? And we're going to learn more about modes, but it's the root note. Right? Happens to be the bass note as well. The root note of the chord C, right, is C. It's the 1. That's the root note. And it's also the bass note. The bass note is the lowest note you hear on the piano, okay? And it can be any note, right? Any chord can have any bass note. And even out of key can have any bass note you want, and we call that a slash chord, right? A note, so the root note of the slash chord, C over E. So if you have a look here, and we've got C, okay? If we take the bottom note, the C, and just move it up to the high C, well, we'll call that an inversion, first inversion. Now you can see that the bass note is E, right? That's the bass note. But the root note of the chord is still 1, right? We'll call this a slash chord. Right? So we define it when we're playing as C, but it's very interesting. And we're going to delve more into this. But your ear now, right? You're sort of tricking your ear in a sense, because now you're hearing E as your bass note, and in a sense, it could be E minor, right? That first inversion of C could be E minor, but there's a 6 there without playing the 5th. Could be E minor with the 6th, the high 6, right? So you're going to learn all this. You're going to learn. Right? There is a lot to it. It's not easy, and it's not going to happen overnight, right? But you're going to have to, watch this video again. I know it's like it can get a bit hard and tiresome. That's why I got the PDF there for you. What is tonality? Oh, thanks, Pete. Another good question. So tonality refers to ability to hear a scale. So the Western people in the West, Europeans, are very good at hearing this scale. You better recognise this. Right? And when a singer sings, they're going to sing in a particular key, right? And of course, they can come out of key, but they'll be able to hear that because they have the tonality reference. When a singer starts to sing, what key are we going to sing in? What key? What key? Oh, key of G, key of C. They'll retune in their head, right? And sometimes it only takes just to start playing in that key. Right? So tonality is every interval played together, basically, which sounds awful, right? But all these notes is the tonality, right? Our brain. Excuse me, our brain's ear will use tonality as our reference, right? So tonality is one thing, but tonality is just a collection of intervals. So when we listen for an interval, we have that reference of the tonality in our head, right? And we're going to learn more about this when we start to recognise, to hear chords within a scale. So there's a lot in music, right? And I'm trying to make this as easy as possible, though we're really delving into the nitty-gritty here. All right, in Lesson 3, we're going to learn all the 12 keys in the Western major scale using our interval knowledge, okay? So the melodic interval series, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, we're going to use that to find them all. Once we've found them all and we've got it in our memory, right? We're going to make sure we learn the harmonic interval series, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right, for the scales. And then there's a visualization section that I probably won't do in this lesson, but I'm going to show you ways to remember your scales, bringing a few memory associations together to make it easier. Now, in my book, Part A, I have a visualization section, and it shows you how to visually find your scales easily, all of them, right? And it takes advantage of patterns, right? And it's all in my book. So, end of Lesson 2. So if you wish to learn to play music by ear, okay, and support my work, the PDF document of this presentation is available. $5 Australian. So I'm not giving away this information, although all this I'm giving away on the internet on these videos, but you have to put up with me and this little fella, if you want to get all this, and me sometimes yapping on about, of crazy things. So you can just download this PDF and go through it. But better off if you really help my channel, and I'll be able to create better videos and present this information better. I'm doing my best to try to get this information presented as best I can. That's why I've got these PDFs here, and they really help. Okay. Oh, we're back here. We came out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Okay? Bye. Say bye. Thanks. Shut up. See you later. Do you mind?